Welcome in the Matt Bernier Show here on DRFTV, live.drf.com, livestream.com, the Daily Racing Forum's Twitter handle. That would be at DRF Inside Post, as well as the Daily Racing Forum's Facebook page. My name is Matt Bernier. Today is Friday, February the 2nd, 2018. This is Super Bowl weekend. We'll touch on that very, very briefly at the end of the show. If you want to follow me on Twitter, at Bernier_Matt. For those of you that check this thing out podcast, you've got YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, video.drf.com. Last week's show, the preview anyway, was all focused, all things Pegasus, all things Gunrunner. He got the job done. No suspense really at any point. He got out there, a great ride from Florent and Giroux. We talked about that in the recap edition. You can go back and find that anywhere. Video.drf.com. You can find it on a YouTube channel all over the place. So if you want to go back and hear about that, you can do so. We're not going to go back and talk about any of that on this show, though. This show is really all about three-year-olds. It's that time of year anyway, where we are at the point where we start to try to separate the contenders from the pretenders and the hopefuls from the non-hopefuls. And this is really the first big weekend of three-year-old preps. We've obviously had some races already here in the month of January early on. You know, the Sham, and you had the race down at Oaklawn Park, the Smarty Jones. So there have been points awarded. But this really feels like the first weekend where we can start to see a little bit of separation and possibly who we need to be paying attention to more so than others as we lead closer and closer to the first Saturday in May. We'll also wrap up things here with a couple of previews from Santa Anita. You've got a nice older race on turf and a nice older race on dirt. But before we get to that, let's start off with the three-year-olds. The Saturday DRF Bets race of the day is the Holy Bull from Gulfstream Park. Let's take a look at that field. Now, this is already going to be a little bit of a wrinkle because most of you know on the far right side, those are my odds, what I consider a fair value line. You can see that the number 6 Hollywood Star, I have not included him in the value line because they're likely to scratch him, Dale Romans is. The problem with this value line, and I have not updated it yet, the outside runner, the number 11 Mississippi, is going to scratch from this race and run an allowance race at Gulfstream on Sunday. So I'm going to give you this line, but know that there's 17 percentage points out there for me to reallocate. So in all likelihood, the horses that are shorter on the line, they're just going to come down even more so because those 17 points will be dispersed amongst them pretty equally, all things considered. So in post position order, the number 1 Enticed for Kieran McLaughlin, 5-1. The 2 Free Drop Billy, one of 4, soon to be 3 in here for Dale Romans, 5-1. Master Manipulator, 32-1. Audible, 5-1 coming in for Todd Pletcher from New York. Bandito, 49-1. Again, the 6 Hollywood Star, very likely to scratch. He's not included in this thing for me. Tis Mischief is another one, and I have a sneaky feeling Tis Mischief is ultimately going to be your post-time favorite. He is 5-1. The number 8, Pony Up, 32-1 as we switch over to numbers 9 and 10, because, again, the latest news and breaking news is that Mississippi will not go in the Holy Bull. They will wait for an allowance race. The number 9, Tip Sheet, 24-1, and the number 10, Acor, 32-1. The withdrawal of Mississippi changes this race significantly, and I have to be honest, I was a little bit surprised. I like what Mark Cassie's doing here. The minute they drew that 11 post, he said, we're not going to go. We're not going to run. Doesn't make any sense. There's too many things that are working against you from out there. I kind of figured they would look at the Sam F. Davis, and Cassie apparently has said that if that allowance did not fill on Sunday, they would have shipped him to Tampa to run next Saturday in the Sam F. Davis. Well, the allowance, it fills, they run, he's good to go on Sunday. I kind of like it. You're going to give him a little bit more time, give him another race, try to get some confidence into him, and then look, it's still early enough where you can look for other alternatives and bring him back in a race like the Fountain of Youth. You can bring him back in a race like the Tampa Bay Derby. You can ship him all over the place. You can run in the Rebel at Oaklawn. You've got a lot of options for a horse like this. So the withdrawal of Mississippi changes the dynamic slightly of the race because he figured to be forwardly placed. Now all of a sudden Acor is very likely lone speed in here, but on the stretch out and possibly from a quality standpoint, don't know that he's quite there. That leads me to look at the rest of this field and say, I don't know how many of them have real proper tactical speed. Enticed from the inside, he's going to go. He's the kind of horse that he's nice. I just don't want too short a price on any one of these horses in this race on Saturday afternoon. That leads me to the horse that I'm most interested in, and we're going to take a look at his lone Grade 1 victory thus far. This is Free Drop Billy. He wins the Breeders' Futurity last October down at Keeneland. The beautiful thing about him is he does have a little bit of tactical speed. It seems like it takes him a little while, but he wants to get into the running, and I kind of feel like if ridden the proper way, he could possibly find himself a little bit more forward than he would have prior to maybe the defection of a horse like Mississippi. It'll be very interesting to see how Luis Saez plays everything there and how Romans and company want to look at this race from a race shape dynamic, because Tiz Mischief is one of them coming from the back of the pack, and also Bandito. Bandito is going to be forwardly placed, but again, I have some concerns about his overall quality. So it's a really, really interesting race. I just think I don't want anything too short. I don't want to settle for a smaller number, especially in a race that it just feels like it's pretty wide open and you go a number of different ways. So ultimately, the pick and the play here in this race for me. The pick is Free Drop Billy. He's the number 2 horse. I made him 5-1 before the defection of Mississippi. Like I said, really the only difference is there's 17 percentage points. I'm going to have to reallocate them. I will very likely post this on DRF Live tomorrow, the updated value line. Head on over to live.drf.com. But having said all that, again, I've said in the past, these denominations that I have out front of the play, it's entirely up to you. Whatever you're comfortable with, I just throw sort of a round number out there. I don't want to have a ton of money into this race simply because I think it is very, very wide open. I think there are any one of 4 or 5 horses that can win this race, and therefore I want to get a decent number. If I had to go out on a limb, I would probably say Free Drop Billy will fall into that 4-1 range now as opposed to 5-1, and I just play $10 to win on him. It would be nothing more than a token wager. The most important thing about the Holy Bull for me, and we'll talk about some of these other 3-year-old preps coming up, the most important thing for me about the Holy Bull is to find out who are the seemingly contenders and the ones that just seem like they're probably more fringe-worthy. I think this is a fascinating race, and we've seen in the past that the Holy Bull can be a very, very productive race. Remember last year, you had Classic Empire who came back throwing a bit of a clunker, but you had Irish Warcry emerge, who ended up running second in the Belmont Stakes. He went off as one of the favorites in the Kentucky Derby. You've had a lot of big things. You had Gunnavera in there as well, so this could very easily be one of the key preps going forward, and we'll find out ultimately how the race is run and who prevails. Let's move up here to New York for the Withers. Now, the Withers this year is a little bit different as we take a look at this field. It's only a field of 6, but it's going to be contested at 1 1/8. So real early in the season, you're going to get a serious stiff acid test for some of these 3-year-olds. In post position order, the number 1, Firenze Fire, who has done nothing wrong. I made him 4-1. The 2 is Marconi, 6-1. The 3, Bal Harbor, shipping up from Florida for Todd Pletcher, 4-1. The number 4 is Avery Island, 2-1. Colton, Mississippi, another Pletcher runner, 12-1. And California Night, 16-1. This race to me is very, very interesting because there's a scenario where I could see the talk coming out of Saturday night and Sunday that the best horse that we saw for the 3-year-olds did not run in the Holy Bull and did not run out in California, but ran in the Withers, and possibly his name is Avery Island. We're going to take a look at his win 2 starts back. This was in the Nashua. I know it's a 1-turn race, and I know it's at Aqueduct, I'm sorry, but it's just a situation where he's a nice horse, but this isn't really what he wants to do. He wants even more distance. He is a proper. You look at his pedigree. This horse wants to run all day, and he's going to get to do that. 1 1/8 off the layoff is not an easy thing to deal with. But you look at the way that he's powering home. I think the additional real estate is only going to help him. And the big piece for me in this entire race, it's not so much that I love a horse like Bal Harbor or someone else. It's just more that Firenze Fire, I don't think he's going to want to go this far. And Avery Island, I think, is going to want every bit of ground in this spot. I think there is a scenario where coming out of this race, coming out of this weekend, we look at Avery Island and say he is one of the legitimate proper contenders, and possibly of the Godolphin duo, the one down in Florida that's going to be enticed, and this horse here. I think this is the horse that Godolphin folks should be most excited about based on the pedigree, based on what he's shown thus far. And you know what? The distance isn't going to be a problem. The one thing hanging over my head for enticed, it's tricky. His mom, she was phenomenal, a brilliant racehorse. The distances got farther. She got a little wobbly. There's a part of me that thinks that a horse like Avery Island is going to just relish distance, and he's going to go on with it. So the pick and the play for me, Avery Island, is going to ultimately be the pick. He's not going to be any sort of a price. I'm not going to get the 2-1 odds that I hung on him. I think he's going to be in that 6 or 7 to 5 range, but that's okay. I'm looking at this saying, because I don't necessarily think that Firenze Fire wants 1 1/8, I'm going to try to throw him out completely. And a horse that still, I think, gets a little bit disrespected, Bal Harbor. I'm going to have him run second in a cold $10 exacta. The number 4, Avery Island, over the number 3, Bal Harbor. Avery Island, He might be the one that I'm most excited about seeing this weekend to see what he is capable of doing, because ultimately I think, again, distance not going to be a problem. Pedigree is there, it shows. And based on what he's done on the racetrack, he looks like he's the goods. Another thing to keep in mind, if Avery Island runs really, really well tomorrow, just remember who beat him soundly in the Remsen at the end of 2017. That was Catholic Boy. Sounds like we're going to be seeing some stuff from him shortly. Let's move on to the third and final 3-year-old prep. This is out at Santa Anita tomorrow afternoon. This is the Robert B. Lewis. Let's take a look at that field. This, I think it's safe to say, is the softest of the three-year-old preps, big preps anyway, that are going to be happening on Saturday afternoon. In post position order, the number 1 is Ayakara, 8-1. The number 2, Pepe Tono, 13-1. The number 3, Dark Vader, 8-1. The 4 is Lombo, stretching out in distance for Mike Pender, 6-1. Shiver Me Timbers, 6-1. Inscom, 8-1. Peace, 6-1. Regulate, 8-1. Blame the Rider, 13-1. The outside 2 runners are both maidens, but I don't see any reason why they don't fit in here reasonably respectable. This is essentially a non-winners and one other than. You have horses, every one of them fits that bill, and 2 of them can run in a maiden race. Instead, they show up here. Again, that just feels like to me that this is, and I didn't mean this as disrespect in the stakes preview, but I'll say it again. This feels like it's the junior varsity. This is the JV level of horses out there in Southern California, as opposed to the varsity runners, where you have McKinsey, and you have Instilled Regard, and you have Bolt Doro, and you have all of those kind of horses, and Solamini. It feels like they're all sort of here, and these horses are here. Now, who knows? Maybe after this weekend I'll be singing a different tune and somebody's going to just blow me away. I don't expect that. And it doesn't mean that down the road they can't catch up to those top ones. But right now it feels like this race is a little bit topsy-turvy. And that's why, based on my value line, very unlikely that I'm going to have any serious money into this, because I don't have a really strong opinion. I think I can poke holes in the likely favorites in this spot, which is a good thing. The problem is the horses that I like and I'm interested in, they've got major questions. Number 1 is Lombo. Lombo, with that additional distance, I think he's going to stretch out. He could be controlling speed, but until they do it, I don't know that I want to take any sort of a middling number on him. I hung him at 6-1. I think that's a fair number, but at the same time, I'm not rushing to go bet him. The horse that I'm most interested in is a horse called Dark Vader. We're going to take a look at his maiden score. This is at Los Alamitos. He's in the pink silks on the outside right now, and he's just going to grind and grind and grind, trying to get up there. The big thing for me, and you're going to have to just bear with me when I talk about this, I look at this field and say, I don't know how many horses want to win. I think a lot of them are just content going out there, having fun, running around. This horse, I think he goes and gets this horse that's down on the inside. He's the number 7 in the pink silks with the blinkers on. I think he's got that sort of desire. He kicks on determinedly. He's got that long, long stretch that he dealt with at Los Al. He's not going to quite get that at Santa Anita. I need him to be a little bit more into the running, because the track profile at Santa Anita going 2 turns, you've got to be relatively close, which should help Lombo's chances. I just kind of feel like there's a scenario where if you get this horse, Dark Vader, into the running a little bit early on, use some of his tactical speed, get him in there, I think he wants to beat you, whether or not he's ready to go for first time against winners in a race like this. But the good news is, this isn't your traditional graded stakes race. This is a non-winners and one other than, including 2 maidens. So I think this is an interesting spot. I think you can go 15 different ways in a 9-horse field. My pick in here is going to be Dark Vader. Dark Vader's going to be a decent number in here. I believe he's 10 or 12-1 on the morning line. I made him 8-1. I would certainly play him to win at those odds. I would play 10 to win on Dark Vader, and I'll also play a little bit of an exacta box. 3 and the 4 for $5, $10, $20, whatever you want to play it with. I look at it and say Lombo is going to be the controlling speed. And if I have questions about how much the other horses want to go and get a horse like that, you know what? I'll take my chances with him going out there, and if he gets tired, maybe Dark Vader can come and run him down. Or if he stays on, I think Dark Vader's at least going to try and come with a bit of a run. So $10 to win for me in the number 3 Dark Vader, and a $5 exacta box. 3 and 4 in the Robert B. Lewis. We will have all of these races recapped on the Matt Bernier Show, the recap edition. That'll be on Tuesday afternoon. So the 3-year-olds, this is really, they're the ones that take center stage this weekend. But there are other good betting races, and I think one of them, maybe not from a betting standpoint, but probably just from pure ability and pure talent, a horse that likes to win races. He's running in the San Marcos out at Santa Anita. Let's dive into those 2 races. Let's start with the San Marcos. There is the field in post position order with my value line. The number 1 is Prince of Arabia. He is 49-1. The 2 is Free Rose, 9-1. The 3 is Mr. Rory, 49-1. Stretching out, you best believe Mr. Rory is going to be sent, going from 6.5 to 1.25 miles. The number 4 is Isotherm. Seems like a little bit of a buzz horse. Everyone's talking about him. Second start off of the layoff. Maybe he moves forward for Phil D'Amato. I made him 9-2. The number 5 is It's in the Post. One of my sons. Loved him for a long time. He is rock solid. I made him 2-1. Flamboyant, 6-1. Another horse that I've been interested in the past. Just don't think this distance is really what he wants. Hayabusa 1. If you're looking for the fresh face, the new face that could come in there and make some noise, he is 6-1. And the number 8 is Editore. I've made him 9-1, excuse me. Editore is a horse that I suppose you could make the case that in that most recent run in the San Gabriel, he got a little bit tight in there, wasn't really able to come through and fully extend. I think there was some validity to that, but at the same time, I don't think he was ever going to threaten for the win. The horse that was best in there was It's in the Post, and we're going to take a look at that stretch run now. Here's Michael Rona with the call.
Flamboyant in the black colours. Top of the stretch, Smoky Image joined by It's in the Post. A length to Isotherm. Editore's trying to get through along the inside. It's tight for him. Flamboyant is chiming in. It's in the Post, kicks to the lead. Leads by 2. Flamboyant is getting after him in a hurry, but It's in the Post holds the lead close to the wire. It's in the Post beats Flamboyant. Editore sneaking along the inside.
Now, the thing you need to understand about the San Gabriel victory for It's in the Post, that was his first start off of a little bit of a layoff. We hadn't seen him since the Breeders' Cup turf. That was at 9 furlongs. The only reason I was trying to beat him that day was because of those two things. Off the layoff, and you were going to get him at 9 furlongs. He's capable at 9, but he's best at 10 or even 12. Well, guess what? Now you get him second off the bench, going his distance, 10 furlongs, and he's going to work out another good trip in here. And I almost wonder if there's a scenario where people are going to look at it and say, Isotherm, he's going to be ready to go second off the bench. I think he's going to get bet more than he probably should. Again, I made him 9-2, but I think Isotherm could be a very, very close second choice. And I think he might get a decent number on It's in the Post, maybe playable. I might get the 2-1, and that's why for me with the pick and the play, the pick very clearly is It's in the Post. I think he is just simply the best horse in this race, and I think there's a real shot that I can get 2-1. And you know what? I would take 2-1 all day. I'll play $50 to win, maybe even more. Again, if I get that number, I think It's in the Post is just strictly the best horse in the race, even if Isotherm takes a big step forward. And he ran like a horse that needed one off the layoff because that was his first start since the big cap of last year. And he put in a little bit of a bid and he flattened out down the lane. I'm pretty sure he's going to be tighter this time around for Phil D'Amato. It's just, I don't think he's as good as It's in the Post. Jeff Mullins did a phenomenal job. Tyler Bays fits this horse very well. 10 furlongs. He's going to work out another good trip. He loves Santa Anita. And again, with some of these other horses, I think there is a scenario where you can get 2-1 on It's in the Post. If I can get 2-1, I will run immediately and get it down on him. It would be $50 to win on my pick. Number 5, It's in the Post. The 5th and final race that we will go over here on this show. This thing has been just flying through, ripping around. The San Pasquale. That is the race immediately following the San Marcos. This is going to be 9 furlongs on the dirt for older horses. Let's take a look at this field. This one, you want to talk about a crapshoot. You could go many, many different ways in here, and I'm not going to argue with anyone that chooses to go many different ways. The number 1, Pavel, 9-2. Number 2, Muptahij, 5-1. Number 3, Accelerate, 9-2. Now we get into some horses that I think they're kind of up against it. The number 4, Win the Space. He occasionally shows up with a giant effort, 49-1. The number 5 is the Lieutenant, 49-1. The number 6 is Ike Walker, 99-1. The number 7, Irish Freedom, 5-1. The number 8, Prime Attraction, 13-1. And the number 9, Top of the Game, 9-2. I look at this race and say, really, I'm looking at it saying there's 5 horses that I think are proper win contenders. Pavel, Muptahij, Accelerate, Irish Freedom, Top of the Game. I can see a scenario where Prime Attraction, if he gets out there and he's just winging it on the front end, because again, the track profile has been favoring horses that are forward going 2 turns at Santa Anita. If he can just get back to that Del Mar race that he ran 2 starts back, sure, he's got a big chance. But I don't want to bet on him. And the other 3, Win the Space, the Lieutenant, Ike Walker, I just think they're up against it. If you get to that point, you're left with, really, you can make positives and negatives, pros and cons for all these runners. Pavel is a newly turned 4-year-old. This is probably what he wants to do all along, get out to 2 turns. When he ran in the Malibu, the race didn't set up well for him from a pace standpoint, and he ran on the worst part of the racetrack. He was out wide for the majority. Down the lane, he angled inside and came on with a little bit of a run. He probably gets back to what he wants to do. Muptahij, you know he's pretty consistent. He may not be a win machine, but you're going to get a pretty honest effort out of him. But you have to keep in mind, this is very likely, considering the connections, nothing more than a prep prep to get to the Dubai World Cup, which is going to be run at the end of March. When you look at a horse like Accelerate's Big Bugaboo. I believe he's 0 for 8 at Santa Anita. 7 times second or third. He is a lover of Del Mar. There's no question about that. The other thing that's a little bit of a concern is that 9th furlong. He seems like he's much better at a mile or a mile and an eighth. Then you go to Irish Freedom. What is Irish Freedom's Big Bugaboo? He just doesn't seem to be ready to get over the hump just yet. I think there's something there, and I think Baffert's trying to figure that out. But everything we talked about with Pavel can be echoed with Irish Freedom. That 7 furlongs, probably too short. Race shape didn't set up well for him, and he was hung even wider than Pavel was throughout. So draw a line through that, and you know that on his best day, he can come with a good run. That leads me to Top of the Game. Top of the Game is a horse that his 2 most recent starts, he ran in the turf in the San Gabriel, draw a line through that. 2 starts back, he got absolutely mugged. Going down on the inside, full of run, ready to go, got stopped cold, draw a line through that. Then you have the run 3 starts back in the Comet of the Top Stakes when he was phenomenal at Santa Anita. Again, Michael Rona with the stretch run.
Out into the lane by Curl and Rules. Irish Freedom was left flat-footed. Opportunities almost on terms with him. The lieutenant on the inside, but past the 8th pole comes Top of the Game, leading the Comet of the top field by 6 lengths from Irish Freedom and Opportunity. Top of the Game making his stakes debut off an 8-month layoff. What a training effort by Vladimir Sorin. Opportunity and Irish Freedom are in
that will win this race on Saturday. If he runs that race, he will win the race on Saturday. Whether or not you believe he will run that race, that's entirely up to you. That's why we handicap the races. I don't believe he's going to be the favorite. I think he'll be one of the choices in here, but he's been installed as the 3-1 morning line choice. I don't think he's going to be that short. I'm hopeful to get 9-2 on him because from a pick and play standpoint, the pick for me is Top of the Game. And I think there's just a scenario where if he can get up to that 4-1, 9-2 range, I've made him 9-2. This would be one where maybe I would be a little bit lenient. If I would get the 4, I could take it. I would play 20 to win on him because I think he has a giant chance. But as far as multis are concerned, you'd probably want to use at least a few other backup horses just in case. But I do think Top of the Game, his best effort is good enough to get the job done tomorrow afternoon in the San Pasquale at Santa Anita, going 9 furlongs. It's been about 20 minutes into this show, 21 minutes or so. If you've been watching live.drf.com, thank you for doing so. Any of the Daily Racing Form social media. We have to talk just briefly before we wrap this thing up about the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl we played on Sunday afternoon. It's the Philadelphia Eagles and the New England Patriots. For those of you that have been following along, you're well aware of the fact that I'm from Massachusetts and I'm a New England Patriots fan, so I've been living in just these are the golden ages of football, and I think they're probably going to win again. But I said to producer Craig in the back, and I've been saying to everybody out there in the office, 4.5, I'm not going to be surprised. I think they're going to win. I won't be surprised if they don't cover. I'm thinking 24-21, but any of you that have followed along all year can know that my football picks have been known to be quite putrid from time to time. I hope this isn't one of those cases. I think the Patriots will get the job done Sunday night. That's going to wrap this show up. If you've been watching live, thank you for doing so. If you listen to a podcast version, you've got YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, video.drf.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Bernier_Matt. As far as next week is concerned, we will come back in with the recap. We'll go over all of these races and then some. That'll be up on Tuesday. That'll be on live.drf.com following the DRF Players podcast. Next Friday, we will have another preview show. And then just a little bit of a heads up going forward. This show is going to change significantly, but not drastically enough, because I'm moving back to Massachusetts. So next week is going to be the final full week of this show. The following week, we will have a recap. There will be no Friday show because I will be getting situated back up in New England, and then we'll go on from there. Things won't skip a beat. We will continue on. So just a quick heads up for that whole situation. But we'll be back on Tuesday to wrap up all of these races. As we normally do, we will throw this into Out of the Gate, but also want to give you a little bit of a heads up again. If you missed out on the Players podcast this morning, it's because there wasn't one. They're coming in 2:30 this afternoon. They will have a big situation. It's either 2:30 or 3 o'clock. Be prepared. Take a look. Live.drf.com. They're going to be going over a tournament. They're going to be having some fun. Peter Thomas Fornatal, Jonathan Kinchin. You're certainly going to want to stay tuned to that. Until then, enjoy the latest edition of Out of the Gate. However you're playing, wherever you're playing, whatever you're playing this weekend. Best of luck. We will recap everything on Tuesday. Talk soon.